AskReddit by Lush Sweet. Inspired by Wendys surge pricing, when were some times where there was such great backlash that a company person took back what they said were going to do? Microsoft's Xbox One was supposed to be always online and removed it after fan backlash. Honestly, this move was so bad Xbox is still recovering from it. Actually, not just the always online thing, but the entire Xbox E3 2013 presentation led to them playing catch up throughout that generation of consoles. I think what really did them in was one quote from Don Matrick. "We have a product for people who can't access the internet. It's called the Xbox 360, sheer arrogance." The Xbox One proceeded to have half as many lifetime sales as the PS4. Not that 57 million lifetime sales is a bad number by any means, but I'm sure Microsoft would have liked to be on the same level as Sony like they were in the previous console generation. There was a car rental company that installed speed monitoring devices on their cars and charged you every time you went over the speed limit. I want to say Outrage didn't last long. Edit. Acme was the name of the company. This was back in 2001. There's a New York Times article about it. That sounds special. There are a ton of roads that if you went the speed limit someone would hit you or shoot you. In the UAE they have a law that if you go above a certain speed the car beeps. It just became part of the background to the music. The internet bullied Paramount into fixing Sonic for the movies. But then we still got ugly Sonic and Chip and Dale. In Canada the grocery market is pretty much completely owned by 4 companies, which means they try to get away with a lot of bullshit since there's virtually no competition. One of them, Loblaws, had a long-standing practice of putting 50% off stickers on items that were about to expire or produce that was beaten up. Recently, they decided that they were going to drop this 50% off to 30%. I don't think they even announced anything. I'm pretty sure word just got out when employees received the new 30% off stickers. The backlash in Canada was absolutely enormous. Loblaws is widely disliked right now for using the lack of competition to gouge grocery prices, and this was just another infuriating greedy move from them. In light of the backlash the company reversed course and kept the 50% off. That's a low blow, Loblaws. OnlyFans said they were gonna ban sexually explicit content and that had to be one of the stupidest things I ever seen, and they reversed that decision pretty damn quick as was expected. Tumblr actually did, and it made them worthless. At one point when bourbon exploded in popularity, largely due to growth in the Asian market, Maker's Mark was faced with not having enough product to meet projected demand, since it takes quite a while to produce. They announced they were going to slightly lower the alcohol percentage of their flagship product to stretch the supply. This idea went over like a lead balloon and was crushed almost immediately. Customers didn't want to lend them the stretch. Doesn't help that Maker's Mark is already more expensive than the other bourbon in its class. The pasta tax. In the UK the government tried to introduce higher taxes on hot food from bakeries like sausage rolls, Cornish pasties etc., and the country basically rioted until the Gov U-turned. There were protests outside Downing Street and smear campaigns against food companies seen to be complicit. It was a wild time but quite a proud moment for the country when it was reversed. Imagine what we could do if we cared this much about other issues. I did enjoy Richard Ayoade using this to roast Jamaica on Big Fat Quiz though. JCPenney tried a whole tactic of we won't have any sales or coupons anymore, our prices will just always be low. Instead, sales tanked, the stock prices dropped into single digits, stores ended up closed left and right, and JCPenney barely exists anymore. A lot of people like to think they were getting a deal. I got this $65 shirt for $28 kind of thing. The people who shop there often like to believe the original price reflected the quality, and the sales price reflected their savvy shopping. Lowering everything to target prices destroyed both of these illusions. My mom shopped there when I was a kid. Through much of the 20th century, the biggest beer brand in the world was Schlitz. Budweiser was a distant second and gaining ground. Schlitz's new CEO, son of the long-standing CEO, decided the way to beat Budweiser was to make beer with a shorter brewing time. He ordered the formula changed to corn syrup from malted barley, added a new yeast to cut brewing time. Overnight, consumers started complaining that the new beer was flat, cloudy and full of flakes of yeast, which turned off the loyal following. They started recalling the beer, which left no beer to sell to the marketplace. Schlitz plunged from the #1 brand to obscurity. Anheuser-Busch could not have come up with a better way to sabotage their competitor. That's why you don't make your fuckwit offspring the CEO. When the COVID lockdown started hitting, the city of Denver announced that all liquor stores and marijuana dispensaries would be shuttered for the duration. Hordes of people scrambled to these shops and formed huge lines to stock up. 2 hours later, the city announced that no, those shops would not be forced to close, that they were deemed essential services. Denverite.com 2021-03-2 to looking back at Denver's prohibition of 2020, a symbol of the city's COVID moment. Lol, I remember seeing that on the news. Lines were blocks long. But honestly, it was really dumb on a health standpoint. Can you imagine all the people going into withdrawals during COVID? Holy crap. When the Fine brothers announced they were going to trademark the term react in relation to YouTube videos. Oh boy, I remember that. The apology video was something else. Cadbury announced they were going to change their formula to include palm oil in their chocolate manufacturing process, and there was a huge uproar. Lots of people boycotted them or threatened to boycott them if palm oil was used, as it's incredibly environmentally damaging. Cadbury's walked it back shortly after and never mentioned switching the formula again. Palm oil sucks. It just straight up sucks. I'm losing weight because everyone went to palm oil, and it's as noticeable as coconut oil. Unpleasant mouthfeel. Taco Bell discontinued stocking potatoes and the people rioted. Yes. Cheesy potatoes. So glad they are back. Now if only Arby's would bring back potato cakes. In 2010, gaming company Activision Blizzard, who ran World of Warcraft among other things, proposed to put players' real names on their forum posts. This did not go well at all. Doxing of children to make a point was involved. They did not go through with their terrible plan. This incident is usually referred to as the Real ID fiasco among players who were around at the time. The dev who tried to assuage the masses by putting his real name on the forums and getting doxxed in less than an hour was hilarious. I think he had something like 4K in food deliveries sent to his house and God knows what other horrors. Kind of. Minor one. But in the early 2000s, Marvel had started a great run of Fantastic Four by Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo. It got huge critical acclaim and good sales, and it was clear the duo wanted a long run on the book. About a year in, Marvel president Bill Jemas announced that their run would wrap up after only 18 issues, with the next team going for a feel closer to the upcoming Fox Fantastic Four 2005 movie. Everyone was pissed. After a lot of online debate, Jemas backtracked and said that the Waid-Wieringo run would continue, and the version closer to the film would be a second FF title. The Waid-Wieringo run ended up being about 3 years. I remember when Bank of America wanted to roll out a $5 charge for using a debit card. People got pissed. Like really pissed, and were leaving the bank. To the point where they were like, never mind. I worked there at the time and they didn't tell employees about this, and it hit the news and we had massive amounts of people in the branches yelling at us about something we knew nothing about. Good times. Fuck Bofa. When Sunchips released their new eco-friendly bag. That thing was so fucking loud anytime it crinkled. They had to change the bags back very quickly from the backlash, haha. I remember this, back when my folks used to buy them. My dad was in the kitchen and said he heard a report on the news that the decibel level of the bags were similar to a motorcycle. To prove this, he very quickly reached for a bag on a nearby shelf and crinkled it a bunch. Somehow the sound filled the whole kitchen and made me jump. Haha. In 2014, Apple automatically added U2's new Songs of Innocence album to the libraries of every iTunes customer for free. More than 500 million customers. If you had an auto downloads enabled on your iTunes, the album was automatically downloaded to your devices. People hated this. As a result, Apple created a web page dedicated to deleting the album from people's accounts. Netflix trying to spin off their DVD service into Quickster, separate from its fledgling streaming service in 2011. Stock tanked 80% in part due to that, was shelved. On a side note, billionaire investor Carl Icahn bought 11% of Netflix stock at the lows for $650 million. He was going to agitate to sell the company, but the stock quickly ran up. He sold it at a 5x gain over the objection of his son. Would have been worth about $25.30 today. He didn't get investor cool 650M because he holds after 5x. Papa John's complaining that he would have to add 10 cents to the price of a pizza if he were forced to provide healthcare to his full-time employees. People were disgusted, sales tanked, stock tanked. This was only one of a series of boneheaded, tone-deaf, racist, and ignorant statements by the CEO. The guy just couldn't shut up. John Schnatter was removed as CEO. Many customers never returned. I am one of them. EA and the loot boxes in Battlefront 2. I believe it is still in fact the most downvoted comment in Reddit's history. I hope you EA community team feels a sense of pride and accomplishment for that. Pretty much every Australian bullied the snack brand shapes into reverting back to their original recipe after changing it, so the new one only lasted a few weeks on the shelves. These crackers are a national delicacy and the new flavors genuinely tasted like shit. Really great to have seen a nation band together for the greater good. They are still not as good as they used to be. The flavors right now at least, but the pizza shapes still don't have the biggest chunks of the flavoring on them like they used to, so the texture's still wrong. Way better than the fine powder shit they used when they changed them originally though. BMW had plans to charge a monthly subscription fee for heated seats and adaptive cruise control. When you would order the car you could opt to pay for those to be installed or not. But they would install them anyway and then you could pay a monthly fee afterwards if you changed your mind. They haven't rolled subscription for hardware features back though. The iX has a heated steering wheel but you have to pay a monthly fee to activate it. EA received huge backlash for adding loot boxes into the modern Battlefront 2 game. They actually basically removed them, but there is a remnant still in the game. When you unlock new guns cosmetics, it uses the loot box animation to show you what you unlocked. There is no way to get loot boxes in the game and the currency you unlock can directly unlock cosmetics now though. Like 13 years ago, Blizzard announced that people posting on their forums were going to use their real names instead of their usernames. The backfire was immense.